Okay, you are live.
All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Building Energy Code Working Group, meeting number 2 on July 24th, 2025. And I'm Scott Campbell, I'm representative from St. John Ferry. And we will start, I think, by going around the screens. We have just a few people in the room with us here. So why don't we start with the people who are in the room, and then we'll go around the screen and have everybody introduce themselves, just by way of saying, well, maybe should we do that, or should we just call them roll?
Sure. Mike DeRocher, Executive Director for the Division of Fire Safety.
Keith Levinson, Department of Public Service. Ben Bolasky, Department of Public Service.
Sandy?
Sandra Bitstoom, representative for AIA Vermont, which is the Architects Organization.
All right, so I'm going to go around my screen and call on people. So Jennifer, you're first.
Jennifer Colin, Director of OPR.
Craig?
Sorry, Craig Peltier, Director of Asset Management and Project Design for the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board.
Seth?
Seth Bongartz, the representative to this committee from the Senate.
Richard?
Richard Wabi, Associate General Contractors, and Richard Wabi Notes.
Peter?
Hi, everybody. Peter Tucker, representing Vermont Association of Realtors, and all my responses will be with background music. I'm at the Charleston Airport.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Matt?
Hi, Matt Sharp, representing Efficiency Vermont today. Steve Spatz not able to come, so I get to join the group.
Great. Kelly?
Hi, Kelly Launder from the Department of Public Service.
Richard Fazy?
Hi, Richard Fazy, Energy Futures Group.
And Ben?
Hi, I'm Ben Civiletti. I'm a staff attorney with the Department of Public Service.
Let's see. Wait, Emily Carr.
I'm sorry, I'm coming. I'm trying to turn on my video. Maybe it's not working. I'm Emily Carr. I am the new general counsel for OPR.
Ah, excellent. Thank you for joining us. Let's see, Keith is here. Tara Grenier?
Hello, my name is Tara Grenier, and I'm the Deputy Director at OPR.
Oh, another new person. Thank you for joining us. Chris Burns.
Hello, everybody. Chris Burns, the Burlington Electric Department.
Tim Perrin.
Good afternoon, everybody. Tim Perrin, Vermont Gas Systems.
And Andrew.
Hello, everybody. Andrew Brewer with Downs, Ragland, and Martin, listening today on behalf of AIA and the builders and remodelers.
Great. And Chris Campany has joined us in person.
Hey, Chris Campany, Executive Director, Winter Regional Commission, here for the Regional Planning.
All right, terrific. So we have a dense and packed agenda for today. I guess I maybe should apologize for how dense it is, but as I was putting it together, I found that I had a lot of threads I was trying to keep track of, and I just thought it was better to put it down on paper than not. Does everybody have access to the agenda? I guess if you don't, let me know. I believe it's posted on the website as well. All right, so first item of business is discussion or approval of the meeting minutes from June 26th, and any discussion. Everybody had a chance to look at those? Sandy?
I did look at them, and I am concerned that they do not contain any record of discussion, questions, other additional information offered by other members. They seem to be lacking.
As I recall, there wasn't a great deal of discussion, but it was mostly the presentation from EFG, but I don't know. Kelly, did you prepare the minutes, or how did that go?
Oops, can you hear me?
Yes.
Ben prepared the minutes, but he actually looked back at our previous 2 years of minutes and tried to strike the same balance as far as how broad they were. I did respond to Sandy's email and suggested if we want something more thorough, we could post the transcript. But it's already 7 pages of minutes and I wouldn't want them to be too dense.
Right.
We can try to do a little more detail if the working group wants it. But again, I don't think 20 pages of minutes is helpful either. So we might want to strike a balance, but we're happy to post the transcript if that's helpful. The videos are also posted and they're on YouTube. So.
Right. Did you, Keith, did you prepare the minutes?
I prepared them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly wasn't trying to mischaracterize anything, but yeah, I did try to model them off of last year's minutes, but we'll certainly be looking to be more thorough as we move forward for any substantive stuff.
Looking back at this, maybe what I'd love to suggest is that if the transcript could be posted, the VBRA members who were here would be last time they or participated, that we could look through and just highlight anything that we would like included in the minutes. That would save everybody time. And then moving forward, if you could post the transcript sooner, we could do the same thing moving forward.
Okay.
So that we don't have a revision process.
Got it. Yeah. So we're posting the minutes, was it a couple business days, basically probably by next Tuesday, we'll be posting the minutes and then we'll post the transcript alongside them. So we discussed right before the meeting, there was some talk about there being a lag with the transcript. Is that correct? So there is like the generated transcript we'll post that as soon as we can get it, basically.
But and I think if you can post the transcript quickly, the actual transcript, then as soon as it's up, maybe you can email us.
Sure.
And then we can just simply highlight the points that we feel are important.
Okay.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes as is then. Anybody? Somebody.
I moved.
Mr. Cappy. Mr. Cappy moves we approve the minutes. Do we have to have a second for that? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Sandy, could be
Opposed, all right. Ayes have it. All right, item 2 is the OPR presentation from Jennifer Collin. Jennifer, you have access to share your screen?
I hope so. And this is going to be a first for me because we use Teams at our office. So y'all bear with me. I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to. Are y'all able to see my slide presentation?
Looks great.
Okay, good. I'm on the right track. Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present some information today. We received a suggested kind of agenda from Representative Campbell. So I kind of designed this slide presentation to hit all of those points, though they won't necessarily be in the order. I believe that's on the agenda. So I'm the director of OPR, and that's a new thing. I was general counsel for the last year and have just transitioned into the director role. So as you know, the Office of Professional Regulation regulates residential contractors, and that's one program of many that OPR regulates. We have over 53 professions, and we regulate over 84,000 individual and business professionals. We have, I think, about 168 license and credential types at our agency. We're a special fund agency, so we rely solely on the revenue that we get through fees, licensing and credential fees. So also right now we're operating at a deficit, and that is a situation that's not probably going to resolve itself without OPR coming up with a new structure for how we where we get our revenue from. So that's a study. We're doing a money study that's looking into that issue, and we've been reporting to the legislature on that. Right now, current residential contractor registration numbers at our agency are at 1275, and that's comprised of individual and business registrations. And that total number is down about 400 since their renewal ended at the end of March. So I think at the time we did our report to the legislature in 2024, that was September, we had about over 1,600 registrants. So there's been a dip in the numbers. That's not uncommon after a renewal for there to be fewer numbers, but that's 400 is pretty significant when you're talking about 1,200 credentials. And our mission is.
Do you want to take questions along the way or wait till the end?
That's a good question. I have a lot of material to get through, and I want to be aware of the limited time that I've been allotted, because I know there's a lot on the agenda. So I suppose I can take questions as they come, but if we start getting bogged down, we'll need to move it along so that I can cover what I need to cover.
Go on ahead. We'll hold till the end.
Okay, great. So just, I'm giving some background and some context just so that everyone has an understanding of OPR as an agency, and kind of the idea that we have many priorities in our numerous professions. So, you know, we regulate people in healthcare professions, from nurses, dentists, pharmacists. We have mental health professions, clinical mental health counselors. We have tattoo artists, cosmetologists. We have architects and engineers and residential contractors and other professions that are related to real estate. So we have a lot of different priorities at any given point. So
Thank you so much.
Can y'all hear me okay? Just want to make sure I'm not, okay. So in 2022, Act 182 kind of created the regulation of residential contractors, and that was an act relating to expanding access to safe and affordable housing. And the findings that kind of led to that regulatory program being started and housed at OPR, you know, we don't have a master list of residential, or we didn't at that time have a master list of residential contractors in Vermont, which made communicating out to that profession very difficult. You know, there was a concern about residential contractor fraud, people who were paying deposits for work on their homes, and then residential contractors kind of absconding with those funds. So, you know, the legislature found that having a registry would provide consumers with the ability to know whether a contractor is registered as a business in the state, whether they're operating legally, whether they've been disciplined before, whether they have insurance, those kind of things. So also, you know, the idea that a non-commercial standardized public listing that would provide contractors the opportunity to show where they had some special competency would be something that would be attractive to the registrants. So the regulatory program that was put into effect is in Title 26, Chapter 106. And as you all know, the credential is registration. There's a fee and an application that you have to submit when you want to register as a residential contractor, either individually or as a business. Registration is a credential that we offer essentially whereby a professional just has to give notice that they are engaged in a professional activity in a profession. So the definition of registration means that prior to rendering services, a practitioner must formally notify the regulatory entity of their intent to engage in that profession or occupation. So registration means that if you're going to be in that profession, you have to register. It's mandatory, but there are no qualifications. So there's no required education that you have to have. You don't have to demonstrate competency in the profession. It's literally providing notice that you're engaged in the professional activity. Licensure, on the other hand, is quite different, because in order to obtain a license credential from the Office of Professional Regulation, you have to demonstrate that you've met qualification requirements, whether that's completing an approved educational program or whether that's passing an examination. You have to meet those standards to be able to obtain a license in a profession that offers licenses. And licenses are also mandatory. So that's the one thing that they have in common with registration, is that everybody in the profession has to get, if it's a licensed profession, has to get that license to engage in that profession. As you'll see when you're kind of reviewing Title 26, Chapter 106, the whole purpose of regulation of residential contractors was to protect against fraud and breach of contract. It's not intended to have quality standards or to address workmanship issues. So that's something that's really important to know, is that OPR was never intended to enforce quality standards with respect to registrants. Residential contractors is a unique program at the Office of Professional Regulation, because there are regulatory thresholds that are set out in the definitions of the statute. It's kind of like we have to, when we get a complaint, for example, about a residential contractor, we kind of have to do a little bit of a mini investigation to figure out whether we have jurisdiction over that residential contractor. So first of all, the threshold that's set in the statute is that it has to be residential construction. So if it's a structure that's not attached to a dwelling, it's not something that we would regulate. It has to, the definition in front of me. Residential construction means to build, demolish, or alter a residential dwelling unit, and residential dwelling unit is defined as 4 or fewer units in a building. Another threshold in Title 26 is that a residential contractor in our definitions is someone who contracts directly with the homeowner. So it does not cover subs. So that's an important feature. And also this threshold of more than $10,000, the contract has to be for work and materials that exceeds $10,000. So that's also a unique regulatory feature. It means that we're not regulating everyone in this profession. It means that if someone is engaged in a contract that's less than that, that OPR simply doesn't have jurisdiction over that individual or business, unless they're registered with us. So if they're registered and they've done projects over 10,000, but they happen to have a project that's less than that, we would have jurisdiction over them. But if they've not registered before and the project is less than 10,000, we don't have jurisdiction. The regulatory provisions also allow OPR to offer a specialty certification on top of a registration. And we've had meetings with stakeholders where we've identified numerous kind of subfields that residential contractors are interested in having specialty certifications on. And also Act 182 said that OPR should have specialty certifications in connection with OSHA standards, as well as green building energy standards. So those are two specialty certifications that OPR is in the process of designing through administrative rules. But beyond that, the agency has the option of identifying other specialty certifications to offer. Richard?
You mentioned that you're running short of funds, I'm going to say.
Yes.
That's what I interpreted you say.
Yes.
What is the difference in cost with a registration versus a licensor for your oversight?
Yeah, licenses tend to be more expensive and
no, for you.
Oh, for us. Oh gosh. I think so OPR is engaged in a money study. We've kind of submitted our first one report in connection with the deficit that OPR is running. But that's a great question. It's not one that has a simple answer, Richard, and I'd want to be real thoughtful before I tried to explain the difference in cost between a registered.
I'll let you answer that later when you want to feel like you want to.
I'm gonna have to think about that.
Is there a cost to OPR to manage the registration process?
Yes, absolutely. So you'll see here in a moment that let me just see what my next slide is here. Okay. You know, we have an application process that folks have to complete, and those applications require processing. We have an IT system that all of our professions are a part of that has to be managed and maintained. We have legal staff that helps us in every single one of our professions. We have enforcement that deals with all of our professions. So there's definitely significant cost to having any kind of regulatory program in our office, but the difference between what's the cost of a registration versus what's the cost of a license, that's a more in-depth discussion. Okay. So Act 182 also asked OPR to report back on what is the status of the residential contractor program, regulatory program, which we did. We submitted a report, which is, I'll share this slide presentation with the group. There's a live link here to our regulatory status report that we filed in September of 2024. So y'all can read that, but very high level, the findings were that homeowners would benefit from additional protections beyond the current regulatory structure, that the registry does not provide any assurance of work quality. It's really focused on fraud, and that voluntary specialty certifications aren't going to resolve really work quality or building safety issues. And I just want to pause here for a moment to recognize, you know, the work group that we're in right now, it relates to energy. codes and how can we achieve greater compliance with energy codes. So I know a lot of this information is maybe tangential to what our focus is here, but at the same time, it definitely factors into the bigger discussion of, how can we encourage residential contractors to know more about residential building energy codes and, what are some enforcement opportunities we might have with respect to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just generally in the residential contractor profession, we have plenty of complaints that have been filed, approximately 100.
Richard, could you mute your mic, please?
Okay. No, we'll do it. That's easy.
Can you mute?
Okay. Sounds good.
There we go. Thank you. So we've had approximately 100 complaints filed since we began this regulatory program. We've got quite a few cases that are pending. We've screened out about half of those complaints, and screened out means before the full investigation is done, we've made a determination that we don't have jurisdiction kind of over that complaint. And so, reasons that we're seeing that we're having to screen complaints out is because we had a lot of complaints when the program first started about conduct that occurred before we were regulating. So we screened those out. We get a lot of complaints about quality of work. So that's probably the bulk of the cases that we're screening out. And then we have cases where folks are complaining that a contractor hasn't completed a job. And, that's, there's a line somewhere about what is fraud and what is not. But, complaints that we get about folks not completing a job when work has begun, there's obvious materials and stuff that have gone into the contract. That's sometimes we're finding ourselves screening those out because it doesn't appear that there's a connection with fraud, which is an intentional act. So I'll just put it that way. We've closed about 30 cases after investigation. So, those 30 cases were screened in, and then we investigated, and either we found that we couldn't substantiate the complaint, or we found that even though the complaint was about fraud, they were really quality of work complaints. So again, that quality of work bucket is pretty large and something that we just don't regulate. So when a residential contractor wants to register with our office, we provide them with instructions on our website. I would strongly encourage any of you to go to our website. It's got a lot of resources and a lot of, we have a frequently asked questions page on each profession, and we really try to help people understand, what OPR's role is with respect to a particular profession. So you'll see on these instructions, we explain to folks when they're registering that they can register as a residential contractor either as an individual or as a business. And the difference there is that business registrations are for contractors who have employees. So if you're self-employed and working on your own, you don't need a business registration. But if you're a contractor who has employees working for you, you should do a business registration. You can do both, So also in the registration process, residential contractors need to provide proof of insurance, which is one of those public protection mechanisms. They also have to attest to or acknowledge that they must use written contracts in contracts that exceed $10,000. They also have to attest that they don't have any outstanding judgments against them. And they also have to acknowledge that they have to comply with RBs and CBs. So when a contractor is applying, the credential that they're getting is a registration. They have to provide us with their basic information. That again, they have to say that they're in good standing, that they don't have court judgments against them, or like that they're compliant with child support orders and their taxes. Some of the mandatory questions that we have center around criminal convictions, or if you're licensed or registered in another state, have you had any discipline in that other state? So you have to disclose all of that to our office when you're first applying. And if a residential contractor is applying and they disclose, serious recent crimes, or that they're licensed in another state and they've been disciplined, then that may trigger an enforcement process that's kind of separate from the, standard application review. We have fitness questions. So we asked folks to confirm that they don't have any medical conditions, or that they're not using alcohol and substances in a way that impairs their ability to practice safety and with reasonable skill. Richard, question.
I'm just curious how you investigate the good standing, mandatory credentials, and fitness.
We don't. It's a self-attestation. And if we get a complaint about a residential contractor where, or if we get information that kind of contradicts what they've told us in in their application, that would trigger a complaint being filed against them. But we don't independently verify that, we don't search like state of Vermont court databases to see if they've got outstanding judgments.
So there is no additional, after they fill out the blank, they're fine, you're good, and they pay their $100 and you're happy to hand them a registration.
Correct. But I will tell you that there are attestation clauses kind of at the end of that application process where you're swearing and affirming under the pains and penalties of perjury that you laugh about it, but we do have cases where we find out that folks have lied on their applications and we prosecute them for that. So, we do have an enforcement mechanism there.
Not in this world, because looking at your investigations 2 slides before, there's very little that you do in this world.
Well, that's your perspective. I have a different perspective. And I think even if we don't prosecute all of these cases that we're getting because we don't have jurisdiction, just to have an investigator come out and notify a contractor, we've received complaints about you. Here's the situation that we're investigating. I think there can be some deterrent value to that. So,
I don't want to lose track of time here, Jennifer. So if you,
I'm going as quick as I can. Yep. We do on the application ask about geographic areas served. So you can select all the counties in Vermont. You can select certain areas, as many as you'd like. We also asked about trade services. So here's
quick question.
Yes.
Are Southern Vermont and Northern Vermont defined, or you just let them self-define that?
No. So the counties are listed out individually. So if people want to select individual counties, they're allowed to, they can do that. But yeah, counties in Southern Vermont and counties in Northern Vermont is not defined. So here are the trade services that we include at this point in the application. This was a list that we kind of developed with assistance from, I think we developed the list and shared it with our advisors, and they assisted us with coming up with the list. So that is it. And then at the end of the application, as I said, we ask folks to acknowledge that they have to comply with RBs and with CBs and confirm that they have insurance, which we've already gotten a copy of. And we let them know that they have to maintain that insurance and they acknowledge that. And that they have to have a written contract for work that exceeds $10,000. And we provide a sample contract. Renewals in our office are required every 2 years, and those renewal applications open 6 weeks before the renewal or before the expiration of the credential. And registrants are responsible for knowing that they need to renew their credential, but we also send them email notifications to remind them, hey, it's time to renew your registration. So I mentioned a minute ago, OPR is required to develop specialty certifications for our, green building, but we're calling it an RB's specialty certification. And we also are required to develop one for OSHA. So we do have a draft of our administrative rules to develop those. We are kind of looking at whether an examination should be required. That's part of what we have in our draft so far. And we've been working with Building Energy Futures Group, kind of exploring what entities could, offer an examination of RBs and what that would look like. So that's something that we're kind of still working on. And OSHA, the OSHA specialty, it's probably going to be the OSHA 30 card. If residential contractors come to us with their OSHA 30 card, we would give them a specialty certification. Now, it's important to remember that specialty certification is on top of a registration. So folks who are not required to register with our office aren't going to be getting specialty certification. So really that group of 1,200 registrants that we have, the folks who are going to be getting specialty certifications are a subset of that group. Another kind of potential RB's, how do I want to say it, like educational piece for residential for professions, getting the word out about RBs, is potentially we could require continuing education credits in connection with RBs for our real estate related professions. There's already an educational requirement for the professions that are shown on this slide. They have to complete an education model regarding the state's energy goals. And it's a fairly brief module that they have to go through. We could do something similar for an RB's requirement in professions like architects, engineers, property inspectors, real estate appraisers, and real estate brokers and salespeople. It's not something we'd be able to require for all residential contractors who are registered with us because, again, a registration is a credential that you get that doesn't require any education. So that's kind of a tricky point there.
So to clarify, it would just be voluntary.
That's correct. So the specialty certifications are solely voluntary. And so that's another kind of, when we're looking at having 1,275 residential contractors registered, and we're thinking about how many in that group are going to want specialty certifications, we know that it's going to be a fraction of the total number of registered contractors.
Thank you.
Yeah. So right now, from our website, any member of the public can access a list of all residential contractors who are registered in the state. They can look up a particular person if they'd like to see if they're registered, or a person or business, or if someone's representing themselves as being registered, they can make sure they're registered and see when their registration expires. They can also see registrants who have been disciplined. That's something that we offer in all of our professions. We do have that interactive map, which there's been a lot of discussion in this group about. That map shows where residential contractors are located, not their service area at this point. The other thing to know about that map is that it's updated monthly, or that's the schedule that we have it on. There's been some interruption of that because we've had some website redesign happening, but it was updated yesterday. But it's not connected to our licensing system in real time. So there's not real-time updates happening to that map. And we'll talk a little more about that in a sec. Also from our website, members of the public can file a complaint. They can contact OPR and ask questions. We have a list of frequently asked questions so that they can get more information. We have a lot of resources. So that's the current functionality of what's available on our website. Obviously, there are always opportunities to, to have more functionality. We do have some challenges, but what we see as being potential opportunities are having, let me back up for a sec. So the geographic areas and the trade services that folks identify on their license applications, those are not searchable fields in our licensing platform right now. Those fields were like an add-on after the system was designed for this profession. So right now, for example, you couldn't go onto our website and try to locate all roofers who are practicing in Windham County. That's not functionality that we have right now. But we can see that there's the potential for that to happen in the future. We have an IT vendor that's external to the state, and our contract with those folks expires at the end of the year. And between now and then, all of the work that needs to be done within our system is already established. But we're going to be engaging in an RFP process, and potentially with in the next contract cycle for our IT system, this work to be able to make the trade services in the geographic areas searchable and exportable, so that we could do file feeds to external organizations or other state agencies, so that if someone wanted to have up-to-date information available on their website, we can see a point in the future where we'll have that, but we don't have it right now. And again, it would be part of a new IT contract potentially that we would have. We also, we're happy to assist with marketing or any other efforts that professional organizations or other state entities want to engage in. We did substantial marketing when this regulatory program was launched. That included radio ads, flyers sent all over the state to hardware stores and lumber yards. We did a ton of press releases. We emailed all the businesses in Vermont that had, certain keywords like concrete or excavation. We did a thorough kind of search of the business services databases to locate those types of businesses and get the word out to them about this program. So we've done a lot of outreach, but again, we're happy to, if other organizations or if another state entity wants assistance with doing some outreach, we're happy to provide data and information to assist in that effort. And of course, we're operating at a deficit, so resources are always at the top of our mind. And again, we rely solely on credential fees, and the fees that we get in one profession are not supposed to fund the work in other professions. So in other words, we shouldn't be using money that we get in nursing to pay for efforts that we're engaging in with residential contractors. I mean, those funds are supposed to kind of be siloed per profession. So resources are always going to be somewhat of a limitation for what OPR is able to do.
How are we doing on time, Jennifer?
I'm
As far
sorry.
as your slides. Oh, you're done. Oh, look at that.
I'm done.
Okay.
That's it. I was talking kind of fast, trying to get through it and wanting to leave time for questions. So happy to answer questions.
Sure, I have some questions. I've been biting my tongue. So let's see. You mentioned the difference between a license and registration.
Yes.
And that the registration includes no credential requirements, no qualifications.
No qualifications.
No qualifications. Actually, you did mention it as a credential.
Yes.
The point of my putting it on the agenda was really to ask about the terminology that OPR uses on the website and in their literature to contractors and to the public, especially to the public, in which it seems that the registration is referred to as a license, and contractors are portraying themselves as licensed by OPR because they think they have a license when they're registering. And my understanding from talking about this for years is that OPR considers registration a form of licensure, a light form of licensure, I guess you would say. So I guess I just wanted to ask whether it's possible to clarify that, maybe use the colloquial term rather than the technical term in communications with the public and with contractors, so that there's less confusion about whether contractors who are registered have demonstrated some level of competence or have provided some credential or have some qualifications, which, you know, as you said, and as we know, is not the case.
Right. And I think if you look at our website, we're pretty consistent with referring to it as a registration. One of the challenges is when you use the word registrant, people don't know what that means. They don't understand that a registrant is someone who has a registration with our agency. So, and I'd also just point out that in Title III, a license is defined as including, because we have a general term that's called a license, and that means any certification or registration or any authorization that we give to someone to engage in a professional activity. So I appreciate what you're saying. Like, we want there to not be confusion. And when you look at the contractor page on our website, it's very clear it's a registration, but we'll take another look at that and see if there's any further clarification that we can do on that.
All right, I just have I have a bunch of other questions, but I'll restrain myself and just ask one. The page that you showed in your presentation that showed the list of things that a contractor has to do in registration. I don't remember what number slide that was.
I'll bring that back up.
I could not find that page, and I guess it just
on our website. You mean?
That's right.
Yes. So
as you were going through it, and not that I want you to show me where it is, I just want to point out that it's actually kind of difficult to sort through what is available on the website For example, there's a find a professional button, but that is really a generic button for all your professions. So it's not really sort of user friendly for somebody who's looking at the residential contractor page to use a generic find a professional button. Just some observations. You don't need to really respond. I'm just pointing that out. Actually, there is one other thing I'll mention, and I don't know whether that's been updated in the last week or two, but when I did find the map and look on the map, I noticed that the registrations that were listed all expired in March.
The end of March.
Has that been updated or?
That has been updated. So we had website work that was ongoing. We have one person that updates our website. I mean, it's kind of the issue when you're working so lean in an agency. We have 42 people to do all the work in these 53 professions. And so we have one person that updates our website, and that person was working on other projects. So we did get that updated, but that is definitely, that's definitely something that is an issue, that it's not automatically updated.
I want to give others a chance to ask a question. I see Peter's got his hand up.
Sure.
Great. Thank you, Chair. First of all, Jennifer, congratulations on your appointment as director there.
Thank you.
That's good news. And I just wanted some clarification on thresholds. So, to register, you must be doing $10,000 in work to be required to register.
Correct.
Is that correct? And then, when we were talking about enforcement, I can think about somebody who does need to register, does a contract over $10,000, but actually has an enforcement action kind of requested, I guess, that is on a contract that's less than that. And is that something you would take on, or do you feel that it's got to be over 10,000 for you to have an enforcement action?
If OPR has jurisdiction over someone by virtue of them having a credential through our office, then we have jurisdiction while they have that credential.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
I'm going to ask another question unless somebody else raises their hand. Oh, here we go.
Hey,
Chris.
Chris Anthony. So I'm just curious, was there any evidence of any uptick of out-of-state contractors coming in behind the floods, and related to that, were there any uptick in consumer complaints post-flooding? I guess a third related one is there any coordination between you guys and maybe Vermont Emergency Management or whoever else in the state that help push word out to both contractors to register and for consumers to be aware of the need for to use registered contractors?
I know that our website, there are flood response resources that was available on OPR's website as well as the Secretary of State's website. But in terms of uptick of, registrants, that's a good question that I don't have 100% for sure answer off the top of my head, but I can get that information to you. And then were we seeing an uptick in complaints after the floods, or have we been able to make a correlation between the work that was happening in that time period with the number of complaints that we have now? I don't believe that we've made that correlation at this point.
Thanks.
And one other part of your question was whether there's any connection with the emergency management regarding letting folks know about the requirement that contractors be registered.
And I have to say that because I'm new in the director role, I believe that there was some coordination, but I can't off the top of my head because I was in a different role at that point. I can't speak to the specifics of that.
Okay, Sandy, did you have a question? Or?
I was going to suggest you ask your question first. I've got just a couple, and I'll keep mine brief.
All right. Well, the other thing that occurred to me, you mentioned you were sort of looking around for some sort of training certification that you could use for OSHA, and I wondered if Associated General Contractors has something already available. Richard, would you know?
what she references are already nationally or statewide accepted certifications. And they aren't actually certifications. They just acknowledge that you sat in a classroom for 10 hours or 30 hours and listened to somebody talk about safety.
Is there
But
any
there
sort
is
of
a whole curriculum for it.
is there any sort of quiz at the end of that 10 or 30 hours, Richard?
Not mandatory quizzing, no, but there is a mandatory curriculum, and I'm happy to share it with you.
Okay. Just wondered if that would be a quick way to get an OSHA registration or OSHA certification.
That is
for-
actually what our plan is. So if you bring us your OSHA 30 card demonstrating that you've completed that course, you will get a certification through OPR.
Okay, doke. Anybody have any questions? Sandy,
And a couple comments, which I'll make quickly.
can you hear Sandy okay?
Yes, good for now.
Okay, my name is Sandra Biston. I would like the OPR report that was dated from September of last year to be included in the background information for this working group. I think
It's a link in the website, so we can, I'm providing the, I mean, it's a link in the slideshow presentation. So I'm going to forward that presentation and there's a live link there if anybody wants to use that.
I'd like to point out that in practice, the confusion between registration and license is significant. For instance, there are hearsay examples of people driving around with a licensed builder on the side of their truck. And this really is misleading to the public because the assumption is that they have an actual credential. The next comment is that the statutory language on your template, your sample contract is still not matching statute language. I just checked that. And I also would like to point out that continuing education on the RVs for real estate professionals would be quite different from that for builders.
Yes.
It might be closer to architects and engineers. A group I belong to teaches that subject, and we do get a lot of designers as well as builders. But they need to be very tailored for that subject matter for builders because they're talking about means and methods of assembly. The out-of-state contractors I can answer. I'm familiar with the situation in southern Vermont, especially after a flood event. A lot of contractors do come in from out of state. The joke is that there are more trucks from out of state in the lumber yards than there are Vermont trucks. And they are not registering with Vermont, even though they should be. So that is a significant problem. We've pointed that out now since last year. The other, so the question is, you pointed this out, you've said it a couple times today, that OPR is not really equipped to adjudicate for competence. And that is the number one thing that VVRA is really hoping for. And Jim is on the top call, but he's on the job site right now. So I just going to add in that VVRA wrote a letter to OPR last September, and I would like to have that letter also included in your records, where we outlined a system that we think would be very simple, cost-effective for contractors, but it would give fire safety jurisdiction over that certification for competence. And I do think that that would be just fantastic. Basically aligning contractors with electricians and plumbers. I've heard contractors say they would be very proud to have such a certification. And there are existing exams in place that fire safety could rely on. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. I'm gonna pass this to you after this is the letter you're talking about. Richard Fazy.
Yeah, Jen mentioned and had a question mark next to the status of voluntary specialty certifications, the development of an examination for RVs. And I just want to just remind folks that that was going to be part of our scope of work under the DOE Building Energy Codes administration project that we had that's been shut down essentially by the Department of Energy as of July 1st. We are waiting to see whether we can spend our remaining funds from budget period 1. DOE hasn't has indicated that they don't have any authority to do that at this point in time. We are also so we're not counting on that, but we're a little bit hopeful. But then we also have another set of discussions we are trying to pursue that. So we are interested in working with this group to develop, with OPR, but it would be, we'd want to make sure the stakeholders were also on board with developing an RB's specialty certification. We've got a plan for doing that. And if we've got the resources, we would want to move forward with that. But as of now, we don't have the funding, so that's on hold.
Well, good luck getting the resources.
Thank you.
Maybe one PS, because it ties in with that.
Okay, Sandy, got one more comment.
Yeah.
We're also waiting for Mike to get back from the
Yeah.
restroom.
So, BBRA is thinking that this is a good time to consider moving the certification for competence over to fire safety because it has not developed very far at OPR. And even if they don't have related jurisdiction, well, they do have jurisdiction over building codes, but there's no adopted building code for duplexes.
Right.
But even with that understanding, it would be good to start funneling it in the right direction for the future.
And one of the other points that you made, Sandy, we've talked about is the distinction between, and Jennifer, you addressed this also, between business registrations and individual registrations. And I admit to being a little confused about that myself, but it seems to make sense that a registration would be for business or for a sole proprietor, but certifications, which have to do with some level of competency testing or credential, are really individual in nature. And anyway, I don't want to discuss that now. Maybe we'll have time for that in the discussion period at the end. But it's just an interesting question to consider.
Well, and I would just point to the statutes that really set up the certification to be on top of a registration. That's the current structure.
Yes, right. So that would need to be clarified in statute as well if we made that distinction. All right, so we're a couple minutes behind, but not too bad. Director DeRocher is here, and can you share your screen?
If I can. Folks see that or?
Not yet.
While Michael is getting his presentation ready, I just wanted to say I have a meeting that I have to go to, so I'm sorry because I know that there are probably going to be questions at the end that may pertain to the presentation that I just gave. So if there are questions for OPR, y'all can email those to me, or I'd be happy to answer those at the next meeting.
I show you. Perfect.
Not really working. All right. I'm good to go.
You're good to go.
Can everybody hear me okay? All right. So what I'll do here is quickly go over the IRC, the Residential Building Code, FEMA grant, our new database as it relates to the RVs and CVs compliance certificates, I'll touch a little bit on ventilation, and I'll touch a little bit on collaboration with OPR. So for the sake of time here, this is kind of where we are with the residential building code. Realizing that we've only had one meeting, but let me just update you on this real quick here, and I gotta move this so we don't.
What's that?
This whole thing.
But you're gonna use your arrows to do it also. The arrow to-
No, I'm trying to move this out of here.
Oh, I see.
So I can see the rest of my screen. How about that?
Oh, look at that.
There we go. Sorry about that. So, internally, we are working on a draft document outlining what the adoption of the IRC would look like. Similar and comparable to how we adopt the International Building Code right now. And just as a reminder, Vermont does have a building code. It's activated when we hit 3 units or more, and we adopt the IBC. And just for awareness to this group, tomorrow is our public hearings in Barre. We have filed rules for the update of our electrical licensing rules, our plumbing rules, and our Vermont Fire Prevention and Building Code. So all those 3 sets of rules have been filed. We've gone through ICAR, and we're into the public comment period now. All that stuff is posted on our website. You can read the annotated version of those codes to see the changes that we've made, but we're moving to the 2021 codes. The draft document for the IRC is in decent shape. We need to fine tune this into a presentation that we can provide to our stakeholders. There still remains a significant amount of internal discussion on the IRC. With a draft document identifying how we would adopt the IRC, I consider it to be an excellent starting point for discussions with our stakeholder groups. For example, would we apply the IRC only to new construction and not apply it to existing buildings under renovations, modifications? What about additions to existing buildings? The reason this is important is because all our buildings have been built under our Vermont Fire Prevention and Building Code and the Life Safety Code. So there's definitely conflicts between these 2 standards. Can this be worked out? Yes, it can. What do we as the authority having jurisdiction require for construction documents as it relates to residential construction? And is the industry trained to comply with the provisions of the IRC? Who is a design professional? And these are questions that I will be putting on the agenda for the next IRC meeting. I will send out the next meeting invite next week, and there will be another meeting here in August on this topic. We also have to look at how does the sprinkler system requirement impact the trade-offs in the IRC. Right now, we deleted out of the Life Safety Code, but what does it mean if we take the residential sprinkler system requirement out of the IRC? What does that look like? How does the IRC impact the cost of construction? How will the IRC impact our permit process, our turnaround time? What I mean by this is we run into a lot of buildings that have started construction without permits. Currently, under the construct we have, it's not that difficult to look at a permit review on a 1 and 2 family dwelling in our existing framework. What will this mean when we run across these projects that are being under the IRC provisions? It's just something internally that we need to look at. There's a significant number of chapters in the IRC that'll need to be amended in their entirety and will need to be deleted with the appropriate amendments referenced which we have included in our draft IRC adoption revision document. And I'm just gonna quickly just hit on a few of these. For example, chapter 10, chimney and fireplaces, we use NFPA 214. Energy efficiency, we would delete the energy efficiency section out of the IRC and make amendments to whatever the energy efficiency rules are that are being adopted by the Public Service Department. We would be deleting chapters 13 through 24 because we don't adopt the mechanical code and we make reference to the NFPA standards. We would delete chapters 26 through 33 plumbing and refer to our plumbing rules and the IPC. Delete chapters 34 through 43 electrical and refer that to our electrical safety rules, NFPA 73 and 70. So there's numerous amendments also to the definitions that are in the IRC because they conflict with our Vermont Fire and Building Safety Code and the Life Safety Code. So that's just a quick rundown on the IRC. I think those that are participating in the IRC study group will appreciate the document that we are working on and completing so that you can actually have a visual on what this IRC would look like if we adopted it. And it would make, and as we present that, it would make logical sense and would follow the same reasoning that we use with the IBC on 3 units and above. I was asked to give a little bit of an update on the FEMA grant update. This was a press release that was just put out the other day. Attorney General Charity Clark the other day joined a coalition of 20 states in suing the Trump administration over its decision to illegally shut down the Federal Emergency Management Agency's bipartisan Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities BRIC program, designed to protect communities from natural disasters before they strike. If you recall, fire safety had applied for one of these BRIC grants. There was a $2 million grant. It was non-competitive. And we came up with a $1.4 million ask, and we were actually tentatively awarded that grant. In that budget for that grant proposal, we had set aside several $100,000 to support training and education across a wide range of areas, including building science, energy efficiency awareness, and our own employee professional development. Fire safety included several $100,000 for enhancements to our new record management system. And we will see if there's any potential release of funds pending the outcome of the lawsuit. I'm not very optimistic that we're going to see this $1.4 million return this year, but trying to stay optimistic and also understand when we built this, I was also very careful not to build programs that we had to rely on this funding in order to continue running our program. So there's no statutory mandated program that I developed under this BRIC program, this BRIC grant. So the next section I was asked to update was on the RBs and CB compliance certificates. And so in our new RMS system right now, we have in the background the ability to receive energy efficiency compliance certificates electronically. This would be linked to the permits we issue for public buildings that we currently regulate. Currently, under Title 30, which is Public Service Chapter 2, provides the posting requirements in buildings and includes provisions for posting in land records with disclosure. I'm not, as I sit here, I'm not sure how best to address the many statutory requirements and changes needed to Title 30, allowing for different posting and processing options and what the impact would be on our resources. We do see some challenges when receiving certificates that are not directly linked to a public building construction permit. This would be for our single-family owner-occupied homes that currently we have no jurisdiction over. We assume the requirement for filing an energy compliance certificate may not align with our construction permitting requirements, resulting in stray filings. This is true even taking the electronic filings for our permitted buildings. There may be differences in when an energy compliance certificate is required versus when does the Division of Fire Safety require a permit. So there's some business flow things in our new RMS system that needs to be worked out so we can still accept those compliance certificates on public buildings that are not linked directly to a building permit, if that makes sense. We are envisioning a heavy workload on our admin staff answering questions pertaining to posting and other program related matters based solely on the fact we would be housing the compliance certificates. Whether somebody's trying to retrieve a copy of the certificate, when do I file one? We sense that unless there was quite a bit of work done on the front end, we would have to be trained and prepared to answer a lot of these types of questions that probably public service right now is fielding in their line of work. So specifically, to change pace a little bit, this is to the single family home RV filings. We do have a solution to accept energy compliance certificates for single family owner occupied homes. So we have asked our IT vendor to build this into the system. We are still determining the impact on division resources. We anticipate an uptick in calls, which I just went through. The cost to add this module would be $10,000 to $15,000 to add the module to our RMS system. And we are also exploring the policy aspects because you all know we do not regulate single family homes. And what would this mean to us to start accepting these energy compliance certificates? And just a little touch on Title 30, which is also not in my wheelhouse, but the person certifying under this subsection shall provide a copy of each certificate to the Department of Public Service and shall ensure that a certificate is recorded and indexed in the town land records. So in my own mind, I'm trying to envision, well, there must have been a reason for this. So how do we integrate or how would we bypass this statutorily? And that is just not in my wheelhouse of expertise. And then you have, there's a lot of language in Title 30 regarding these postings. A person aggrieved by non-compliance with this section may bring a civil action against a person who has the obligation of certifying compliance under this subsection. The person may seek injunctive relief, damages, court costs, and attorney fees. And so again, not being in my wheelhouse, these are just things I can imagine. It's not just as simple as the Division of Fire Safety saying, I can electronify, if that's a word, these energy certificates. There's laws in place. And then I was asked to speak a little bit about the ventilation here.
I have a question before Mike goes further on what was just done. Sorry, I had my hand up. As far as the certificate needing to be sent to the department, I mean, maybe we can figure that out between fire safety and the department or have us have access, but for filing in the land records, I mean, will there not be like a print function, Mike, that someone could always print it and file it?
Could you repeat that, Kelly? I didn't catch all of it.
Yeah, I'm curious if when someone is filing or a certificate with, if they were gonna file a certificate within the system, would the system not allow that person to print what they filed? Is there a print function where they could just print it and either post it if it's required to be posted, like by the electrical box, or
Yes.
file it with the town? So to me, that doesn't seem like that's an obstacle.
No, you could print it, and I don't think the obstacle is so much the filing of it, right? That's pretty easy. We have that already being worked out in our RMS system. It is a matter of all the other language that's in Title 30 pertaining to the posting, bypassing, like, would they go to the land records? I mean, if they want to file something with us, we're not going to be tracking stuff in land records and all that. And so I guess that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, there would have to be updates to that language.
Right.
If we change the process, obviously the statutory language would have to be updated. And I did download that entire chapter. I think it's chapter 2 in Title 30. And so it's part of my homework for next time.
But we are prepared to accept these certificates.
That's fabulous.
And there are advantages, right? If somebody files a certificate, it's linked to a permit. If they don't file that certificate at the end of the construction project, we will have a way of tracking this. So we can then make sure that these certificates are filed for all the projects that they're submitting.
Well, maybe can I jump in? I don't know how many more slides you have, but I had flagged that a comment you made earlier to ask a question. I think you mentioned something about projects. There may be projects that you have jurisdiction over in public buildings that don't get permits. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
Okay. And so then one of the challenges you have is people might be submitting an RVs or even the CBs. Well, probably CBs you would have gotten a permit, but anyway, you might be getting an energy code compliance certificate for a project for which you don't have a permit.
Correct.
And that's just another wrinkle that you have to work out.
Right.
But you're not seeing that as a.
No, it's just something, when I say we have internal discussions,
Yeah.
those are some of the business flow.
Right, okay.
Things we're anticipating.
All right, thank you.
Currently, fire safety does not enforce standard 62.1 or require any post-construction certifications. The only compliance check we require that is associated with ASRE is the energy standard certificate that is required to be posted at the end of the project in compliance with Title 30. Currently, we're using NFPA 90A and 90B and do not adopt the mechanical code. We require compliance with the equipment manufacturer installation requirements and outside the realm of a few NFPA standards, and one off the top of my head was NFPA 96 for kitchen equipment exhaust systems where we require.
Just a clarifying question.
Yeah.
So I'm just still trying to understand exactly how Vermont works. So when you say you don't enforce, so when it comes to like certificates of occupancy, do those get issued? And
yes.
Okay, is that you guys on the things that you
correct
cover? Okay.
Yep.
So obviously, like on residential, unless municipality has a permitting requirement, there
Correct.
may be no certificate of occupancy.
Correct.
Or okay, I just want to.
Yes. And the only way a municipality can issue the same certificate of occupancy and standing is if they have a municipal inspection agreement with our division. So, it doesn't mean they can't issue local building permits.
Right.
But as far as like a certificate of occupancy, it comes from fire safety or a municipality that has an agreement with us.
So for most of them, it would be only really like a zoning, certificate of occupancy because of zoning standard requirements, but not like they met the setbacks or whatever. Okay.
I do have a question about the ASHRAE thing, but do you have any more slides to go or?
Just one.
Okay, well, I'll wait till maybe I'll ask it right now since it's up here. So nobody is enforcing any ventilation requirements, is what it sounds like.
Other than the provisions in NFPA 90A and 90B.
Would probably have to do with makeup air for.
There's
exhaust-
makeup air,
exhaust-
combustion, and
Yeah.
NFPA 54, 30, all those different. NFPA
But as far as,
regulations.
as far as ventilation for humans, those are all ventilation for mechanical systems. As far as ventilation for humans, there is no requirement in Vermont.
Correct. I think I'm right.
Okay.
The way that we're currently operating.
Sandy, the architect, is shaking your head, correct, yes, or nodding her head, that's correct.
And then again, Jennifer and I have met a couple of times and discussed different, registration, certification, what does the things look like? Obviously, we license and certify thousands of, trade professionals, and just for clarification too, on the contractor registry, all the contractors that we license or certify within the Division of Fire Safety are exempt from that registry.
Right.
So there's probably 15,000 or more individuals that we license and are certified that are not up, that would not be on that list.
And maybe I'll ask one more question about that. And those certifications that you have for plumbers, electricians, heating technicians, and so on, are individual.
Correct.
Awarded to individuals, not to businesses, right?
Correct. Both, basically, like Jennifer tried to explain, I get the registration, certification, licensing, but that tier simply, the amount of credentials that you must have increase as those levels go up. So licensing, we have boards that oversee the licensing process. Same thing for our electrical and plumbers. When you get into gas and oil, we take on national certification programs, and if an employee or an individual completes that national certification for oil NORA, they provide us the NORA certificate, and we accept that on face value that that employee is certified to do oil installations. And we do the same with the gas, natural gas, and all that stuff. So on the energy efficiency side, I know there's been discussions over examinations and all this kind of stuff.
And are there, I guess there are, I don't know, whatever, journeyman and apprentice or something like that, for all the various certifications and licenses that you have?
For the licenses there are.
Yeah.
There's specialty licenses, journeyman, masters, all that stuff.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, thank you.
That's it.
Oh, that's it?
That's my last slide.
Oh, gee, all right. Well, that's great. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions?
Sure. Mike, I mean, the questions you had in the beginning of the slide presentation seem like exactly the right ones for whatever that's worth. And I get, maybe I don't want to take up everybody's time. I think this is important. In the IRC that you're looking at, does that include grading? Do you know?
Does it include what?
Grading, site grading?
Site grading, exterior site grading?
I can't answer that. I wish I could, but I
Okay.
can't. I'm not that down into the weeds with it yet. I have other
Gotcha.
staff that are doing this, but what I can say is, there's several benefits of the IRC. I just need to vet this, right? But the IRC structurally, floor loading, roof loading, decks, foundations, all that kind of stuff. I get the importance of doing this. The other thing is the positive impact that this may have on ISO ratings.
Yep.
Right? So if you have, because we are lacking, a building code, an official building code for the 1 and 2 family dwellings. I know ISO probably doesn't, look at that very favorably.
ISO is?
Insurance Service Office. They're underwriters that set insurance premiums for communities. And,
Is that?
You know, again, I would just say, you know, that, we have to make sure that that our contractors are trained and understand the provisions of this. Otherwise, we're just throwing a regulation onto them with no ability, and we have to train our own staff. And that's why in the BRIC grant, I put in this 400,000 for certification and training. It included, training our own fire marshals to be building officials and more in tune with the structural requirements that you do find in the building code and the IRC. Now we can, you know, on the commercial side or the 3 units and above, we can rely on a lot of plans coming in stamped by architects, engineers. You know, there's somebody that's got a much better set of eyes on it.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of residential contractors that, you know, we would need to really train. I think that there'd be an educational component that would, but let me send out an invite next week for the IRC, the next IRC meeting. We will have a so-called like a draft on what this document would look like. So we have been doing a lot of work in the background on this.
Do you have a date? Settle on a date yet?
I don't, but I gotta travel for work at the beginning of August, probably for the 3rd week of August in that time frame. So
I just want to, just to find that out, I just want to, you know, grading where it all starts. I just want to make sure we're all thinking, not just structures.
Yep.
And building systems, but the system from my perspective starts with the site grading. And one of the things I'm not sure, because I've been out of this for a while, as to what extent the grading requirements have actually kept up with like new world precipitation rates and intensities. So that, you know, standard grading, probably some of the requirements may not hold up. Sandy may know, but that's one of the things we would probably want to think about as we're going forward with all this.
send me an email on that so I don't lose it in the blender.
Okay. I see a couple of questions online. Well, Sam?
I'll wait.
Okay, all right. Richard Fazy and then Richard Robin.
I just want to say, Mike, I want to just publicly say, thank you very much for including the RBs and CBs certificates into your record management system. I know it's added budget to your project, but I think that's really important and it's a great step forward. So thank you very much for you and your agency for making that happen. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Echo that. Richard Robbie.
I'm probably putting a cart before a horse, but Mike, just looking at what you've said, and we say we'd like to average building 500 new houses a year, what is the cost factor, which I know you can't answer, but have you considered the cost factor for 500 houses a year on your group?
In terms of what, Richard? You mean the filing the certificates of compliance?
No, on
You're looking at the IRC, right?
on compliance itself.
With the building code or the energy code?
So say both. We're adding a workload and we're adding a cost factor to that department. We're trying to average 500 new houses a year. What is that average? What is that cost to add 500 houses a year through his department?
I'm sorry, sir. If we don't, we're not going to be adding any more buildings to our process. We already received construction permits for 1 and 2 family dwellings. This would be a matter of what are the details that are going to be provided to us as a result of the IRC. What are the construction documents going to look like that right now we're not receiving because the IRC will have a requirement for more substantial filing of construction documents. I don't know what the cost impact of that is. That's one item we need to look at. Is what the financial impact will be on housing if we adopt the IRC.
I'm sorry, Mike, and I'm not explaining myself well. So you're saying to implement this program in your department, there's no added cost right now?
If we take on, correct, there's no added cost right now. If we take on the single family owner occupied homes, then there's gonna be added costs for that, to take on those certificates. It'll be 15,000 in development cost at a minimum, and then whatever the resource work's going to be, which we don't know yet. But yes, there is a financial impact to us and a resource, right?
And do you anticipate a compliance cost? Okay.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
Okay.
All right.
I just have a couple of quick comments.
I see Sandy has her hand up.
Did anyone else want to go first? I wanted, first of all, that was really exciting to see. Can't wait to get that invite. Folks may have felt like many chapters are being deleted or significantly amended, but there are key chapters left that we'll be looking at if this goes forward. Things like nailing patterns, roofs, walls, foundations, and including in foundations, the IRC has a chapter around soils. So the IRC is a simple guidebook that is soup to nuts. And this is very exciting. One question I have for you is, can Vermont proceed with these setup costs and have the possibility of being reimbursed if that grant finally happens? The answer is no from Chris, he knows. Okay.
But that's not doing a good job reimbursing for it, or?
No, where?
Well, if there's a way to make this happen, the Vermont way of getting it done ourselves, I think I could speak for AIA Vermont that we'd be delighted to help. Then, let's see, 15,000 licensed people now, individual people, by fire safety for many of the trades, including electricians and plumbers. I wanted to point out costs. In my understanding from talking to tradespeople, it's not an exceptional cost. And then the industries are used to it, for the cost to renew their license.
Right.
And you also have a very strong mentorship program. And that means when someone is new to the profession and they're working on a job site, various people kind of look at their work, and it's in a friendly environment, not punishing. And the key thing I think is that the idea of everyone getting the same training in Vermont will make construction cost less. I think it's a really important, and the problem is, how do you quantify that? But if the building officials are trained the same way that the builders are trained, and even private building and property inspectors are trained and designers are trained, if everybody has the same common language, I think that'll make our world a lot easier. So I'm really excited. I'm glad that you've spoken with OPR. I know that DVRA is really hoping that this will move forward. And I think they would offer their help.
I would just add this, under this whole affordable housing discussion, is even on the energy efficiency side, when you try to put the initial upfront cost and then spread that cost over time and savings, whether it's from your utilities, whatever the case is. That's a hard sell when you're looking at trying to get rapid unit generation right now.
Right.
And that's a challenge where you're looking at unit generation, meaning now. And how do you say 10 years from now, what you just invested now, which you can't afford, is going to pay dividends 10 years down the road? And I think, you know, I'm pressured with that. Our field inspectors, when they're trying to get building owners or landlords to fix their violations, we are having to do a lot of marketing and salesmanship directly with all these people, business owners and everything. Safety doesn't come free.
Well, I think the insurance companies will be an important part of that, and it's difficult to get data because so many other states have both building codes and energy codes that are routinely followed. So it's hard to collect data. But giving you an example, a very small, quick example. Just this morning, I was on the job site with a builder and the owner, and they wanted to have their windows at less than 18 inches off the ground on the second floor. So I pointed out that in most other states, that would require tempered glass and an opening restrictor. And I said, you don't have to do that. There's no one that's gonna check that. However, your insurance company could try to either force you, but they certainly would be happy because it would limit their liability. We have to get into this discussion at some point, but I really think that closes the circle. And that is really true with a number of elements that are related to the energy codes as well. Ventilation being a big one. Thanks.
All right, any other questions? We have scheduled on the agenda a short break. We're 5 minutes late for that, but I think that's pretty close. So I think we can take a short break. I myself can use a trip to the bathroom and come back in, let's see,